an amazing episode ahead on such an important topic. We're talking about financial management and budgeting for equestrians with the wonderful Mary Hurston McCants. And if you have come across Mary or maybe other podcast episodes with Mary, you know what an incredibly lovely human she is, but she also makes this topic lovely is the only word I can come up with. And it's amazing because I'm one of those people who avoids looking at my bank statement at all costs. So thank goodness that I'm here to get some advice from Mary too. Mary, thanks so much for taking the time to teach us about this important topic and hopefully make it a little bit less scary.
Oh my gosh, Jessa, thank you so much for reflecting that back to me. And everyone listening to this episode, I want to celebrate you for being here. And if you saw the title and it had money in the title of the episode and you're feeling kind of resistant to listening to it and you're thinking like, gosh, is she going to, shame me during this episode? That is totally not what this is about at all. This is about, we're going to have a really fun and compassionate conversation about budgeting and with horses.
Who knew it was even possible? But you guys buckle up because it is, and we're here to prove it. Mary, if you don't mind, let's start at the beginning and get to know you a little bit before we dive into this budgeting conversation. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself as an equestrian?
Jess, I just want to, I'm so sorry. I should have told you my name is actually Mary Hurston. It's a double name.
Oh my
Um,
gosh,
I'm so
cool.
sorry I didn't tell you earlier.
No, that's
Um,
okay. I thought it was two last names.
oh,
Okay,
yeah.
Mary Hurston, thank you. Don't worry.
Um,
Yes. So,
okay.
Mary Hurston, tell us a little bit about your background just in the riding world. And are you still an equestrian yourself?
Yes, I am. So I have got a purebred good boy who is in Florida this winter, and I live in South Carolina. So I'm going back and forth, having a great time this winter with him. I grew up riding and got out of horses for a while, for about, gosh, 10 years, and got back into it and have been having a great time.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
tell me about your business and when you became a professional in this space.
Okay, so I am, like you said, a coach for equestrians on budgeting, and I got started doing this. I oh my gosh, wait, Jessa, is this? I just got so. Is this a? Are we gonna edit this?
Yeah, yeah, we'll edit this.
Okay,
Don't worry.
okay. I just got so turned around there.
Oh, don't
Um,
worry at all.
yeah. Okay. Excellent. Um, okay. Maybe we can just
Should
start.
I? Yeah, I'll start with the prompt again.
Okay.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you built a professional career in the equestrian industry and what that entails and what that looks like today.
Okay. So when I first started doing this, I didn't plan on this being a business. I was having dinner with my trainer, and she was talking about, some financial decisions she was about to have to make and how she was feeling really avoidant of looking at her finances. And she's like, I don't even want to look at like what stuff costs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can totally help you and be with you in this space. And so that's how I unofficially got started. And then, gosh, I think it was about 2 years ago, I was in Natalie Hummel's program, who's been on your podcast and who's so fabulous. And, I was thinking about like, what is my contribution and like, how do I want to shine my light? And it's through this really niche service that I offer. I'm not going to be teaching riding lessons or training horses, but this is my contribution to the equestrian community is teaching people this skill and taking away the shame with talking about money.
That is incredible that Natalie helped inspire this career path. That's like
Yeah.
so full circle, and I had no idea. Wow, that's really cool to hear about, and it's kind of an underrated area to have help with. I think a lot of us just try to like stay afloat, and as long as we're staying afloat, even though there's kind of constant anxiety that comes along with that
Yeah.
sometimes, we just keep swimming. So you can kind of help us learn that there's a better way. Let's start by talking about when a client comes to you. I guess let's start actually when a client comes to you, what is generally the goal of your work with that person? Is it like to to build up a spreadsheet with them so that they have clarity around their finances and they can make better decisions, or is it not one size fits all like that? Can you give us some examples of what the goal might look like for successful work together?
Yeah. Okay. So when we first start working together, the first part is understanding your money story. And I always start with how do you feel about money? And then how do you want to feel about money? And, so much of our like past informs like what we're doing in the present. And so we take a look at that. And then it's about the next step is like I use a system called YNAB. I love it. Maybe we can put it in the show notes. It's so great. And so we go into understanding your true expenses. And what that looks like is like not just your monthly expenses like gas and board, but those non-monthlies like trailer tires that you need every like 3 years and vet bills and all of that good stuff. Yeah, and then we do an income versus expenses audit and see like, okay, here are your expenses, here is your income, like is there a deficit? And really orienting around like what do you want and then what do you want to do to get what you want.
So an example of what do you want would be like, I want to show on the A circuit this year, or I want to go to the AECs this year. Is that right?
Yeah. That could totally be it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But mostly it's like what do you want with your finances? Like it's totally those goals. Like I want to be able to pay for these things. I want to feel resourced. Like I want to feel prepared to go to the AECs financially, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. And so I love that you start with people's money story. What do you find a lot of equestrian stories are around money?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. Um, yeah, like I think I hear a lot of like, it's always going to be like this. Like I'm always going to be stretched thin. Is as a huge story that I hear, or yeah, sometimes I hear like people really want to do right by their horses. And we project a lot onto our horses and like oh, I want to be able to do all of these things for my horses, but really, Jessa, I'm so sorry. I just got so turned around in that question. Do you mind if we? I'm so sorry.
Don't
This has never
worry.
happened to me. Yeah.
Don't
Um,
worry. Um,
okay.
okay, let me think. Let me think what where we should go back to.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Tell me, starting right here. Um, Tell me what you hear from a lot of your equestrian clients in terms of like what stories are they telling themselves? And the reason I'm curious is I bet a lot of people listening will relate to some of these stories.
Okay. Yes. Um, the stories that I hear, like, I start. It's this is how I start. Like we talk about stories, and Justin, maybe we can use you as an example. But if money were a person, how would you treat it when it walks in the room?
I would probably walk the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I hear that a lot. Say more about that.
I think if money were a person, like when you even say that, I immediately feel a little bit of anxiety in my
Hmm.
chest and I want to avoid it. Like I just as long as the pieces are coming together, I'm kind of like I don't want to know any more about this person, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that is like such a common theme that I hear, that people feel really avoidant at even looking at their finances, you know? And if you get nothing else out of this episode, is this is I want you to try this on just for the next week. Think about money as a person. It's coming, you invited over to your house, you're like, hello, I'm so glad you're here. You can come and go as you please. Yeah, and it's it's about the energy that we bring around, and like think about like holding it easy. Like, um, I'm so glad you're here. Like, if you invite someone over, like, what would you like to do? Can I get you a glass of water? Sometimes people are like, oh, I would lock it in the closet, but if you had a house guest that you locked in the closet, they would be really weirded out.
Yeah, that's true. I hear what you're saying, and I love the analogy of like being hospitable to this person and to this concept that we're talking about. Be welcoming and be open. And
Yeah,
I think that that would be so freeing. So let's talk about how we get from here to there. How do we
yeah.
get from the avoidant equestrian who might feel like that person that you mentioned who it feels like they're always going to feel stressed or stretched
Hmm.
thin. Let's use that as our point A. And then point B is this person who feels really empowered around their money. How do we get from point A to point B? Let's talk about some budgeting basics that you do with your clients. Maybe you can tell me the number, but maybe we start with three
Yeah.
budgeting basics that can help people go from point A to point B.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I love that question. Okay, so you're feeling avoidant, and like you're feeling avoidant, so you don't look at your finances and you don't plan, and then stuff comes up that you weren't prepared for, that just like confirms that feeling. Like, that's what we know about avoidance, is like it just keeps confirming that same story. And so what I offer people, because I know that looking at your finances can be really scary and intimidating, is like your the co-regulation of doing it with someone else. Like, hey, I know this is really hard, let's look at this together. Like, you're standing in the room and you're like, I don't want to turn on the light switch, and that's what I offer to people. It's like, hey, I'm here to help you turn on the light switch, and like, let's take a look at this so you can be prepared for things that come up. Because like, and I, honestly, like, I'm thinking about changing the word budgeting to something else, because like when you hear budgeting, you kind of has like a connotation. It's like it's restrictive. It's like this really intense plan. Is that kind of like maybe the presupposition that you have about it?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, I know. And if you have like a better word for it, like, somebody drop it in the comment chat, because the comments, because I'm looking for one. But budgeting is getting clarity on what your finances and orienting to what you want. And what it feels like is being prepared for yearly bills when it comes up. It feels like having fewer emergencies. It feels like being able to take a deep breath from when you get paid to when you spend your money. And it looks like confidently being flexible when something unexpected comes up.
Those are so many good
Yeah.
like skills that you just mentioned. Let's kind of take them one by one. So,
Okay.
how do we how do you help clients be prepared for big expenses that might come up? Maybe the big expense comes up every few years. And so it's one of those just like, oh, like for example, I need to put winter tires on my car right now, and
Yeah.
we're in mid-February. I've been avoiding that. Um,
Okay.
it's going to be the end of the winter by the time I finally am like, oh, okay, I'll make this investment. I wish I had kind of been prepared for that. So, is there anything like that that you're kind of helping equestrians get ahead of so that they do feel empowered instead of feeling a little bit like behind the ball on those big expenses that are just completely inevitable?
Yeah, okay. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. Okay, so if we were working together, I would get you set up in YNAB, which is the program that I use. And we would start with your monthly expenses. And we would go through those things like your living expenses, your horse's living expenses, if you've got dogs, all that good stuff. And then we go into your non-monthly expenses, like the tires, insurance, dentist, the vet, all that good stuff. And YNAB is this super user-friendly program. You would put in like the cost of the tires and the date that they're due, and it automatically does the math for you and breaks that big yearly expense down into a smaller monthly expense. And so, yeah, so when you get money into your bank account, you've got your plan laid out, and then you give that money jobs. Like, okay, I want to give it the tire job, all of these jobs. And so when those big expenses come around, you're ready for them.
That is brilliant. And tell me more about, so YNAB, that's the letter Y, NAB, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that where you do the vast majority of your work with
It
clients?
is. Yeah, it is. It is. And it's an
I like,
app. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I like that because even just having you describe it, it sounds a lot nicer than the intimidation factor of a Google spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, right. And it's so user friendly. Like most of the people that I work with they're like zooming around from place to place. I'm like, you can categorize your transactions when you're filling up water buckets, or yeah, on your phone. Like it's really fast. And the thing with a Google spreadsheet is like you're constantly having to update it. And maybe you have really good intentions and you like set this plan at the beginning of the month, but there's no such thing as a normal month. Like, yeah, there's no such thing as a normal month. So like having a system and a plan that's really flexible and you get to adapt however much you need to is like going to set you up for success.
I love that. I mean, that in itself is a big shift from intimidating to empowering. So, what you just described helps us feel really just on top of any sort of a regularly occurring expense, whether it's monthly or whether it's yearly or whether it's every 3 years, like you mentioned, it's because you know it's on the horizon and it doesn't become this huge looming thing that we've been
Yeah.
avoiding. So that makes perfect sense. Let's now talk about the expenses that we can't foresee, which being somebody who helps equestrians specifically is such a unique role because horses are unpredictable and the expenses that come along with those unpredictable events can be, I mean, they can be catastrophic, really, what to somebody's finances if
Yeah.
there's not some preparation that happens. So tell me about how you guide clients for these emergencies. And then we'll dig into this topic a little bit more too.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. So I always start with some is better than none. Like, if you're like, "Oh, I don't even know what it would cost, and then you don't save anything. Like, it's better to have $500 set aside and, the bill is $800. Like, aren't you glad you only have to make up $300? Like, you wouldn't say like, well, I don't know exactly what the cross country course is going to be, so I'm not going to school at all. Like, I'm not going to jump any jumps, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And like, let's talk about vet bills. Like let's start with what you do know. Like, your horse is going to get shots twice a year, Coggins, health certificates, like all of that stuff. And then if you know like your horse gets injections, like go ahead and work that in. And then what we know about horses is there's probably going to be something else that comes up. So let's pick a number and work toward it and see, you know, what's the feedback? Was I prepared for the vet bill or not? And if you weren't, like, what do you want to do to be prepared next time?
Okay, I love that. It makes the way that you related it to cross country schooling, it does make so much sense. Like, do whatever you can do because you're in a better
Yeah.
position doing that, even if it feels like the smallest little step, it's an important step compared to nothing.
Yeah, totally. Um, and if you're listening to this and you're in a position right now and you're like, I just had this really big, vet bill come up and I wasn't prepared. Like I like want to like send you so much like compassion and say like it's okay. Like I know that this feels really stressful right now and like, do what you want to do in this situation like to move forward and then like have some grace for yourself. And then once you've paid it off, take a deep breath. And sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about the next vet bill. I just pay this one off. But, take a deep breath, have some grace for yourself and say like, okay, how do I want to prepare for next time? You know?
And on that note, do you have any sort of like a standard tip that you give to your clients in terms of like when you look at your monthly income, monthly expenses, whatever's left over, do you have a standard tip of like some percentage of that should be going into an emergency fund?
Oh, okay. Okay. I love this question. So, let's say, and I'm just gonna like make up some random numbers here, but let's say like in your plan, your monthly expenses are like $4,800 and your income is $5,000. So you've got $200 of flex right there. And so when you're first getting started, totally focus on building up an emergency fund. And also, like once you start doing that for a while and once you like have fewer emergencies because you're prepared for more things, that extra $200 in YNAB, you go to the next month and you give the dollars jobs in the next month. Does that make sense? Like you're carrying forward a little bit of income from month to month so that you have more time, like I was saying, between when you get paid and when you spend that money, like it gives you a little bit of a buffer. And so like what I'm
It's
like
not
coaching people
so
on, yeah,
paycheck to paycheck.
yeah, totally, totally. And like one of the goals of doing this for a while is like to be a whole month ahead or 2 whole months ahead. And that takes a while. That takes like a year sometimes or more. And that, whatever pace you're doing is totally fine. But that whole month of income is like the best emergency fund ever.
Got it. Okay, so
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. So it's not necessarily that that money is literally sitting in an emergency fund, but when you get far enough ahead on your payments, you have that little bit of cushion should you need it that you can dip into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I like to help people think about like thinking about like the emergency fund, like try to be more specific. Like, do you have like a house repair fund, a horse emergency fund? Like, try to be, when we first get started, it's going to be pretty general, but the more we work together, like, let's get really specific about what you're saving for.
That's interesting. So a house repair fund, that makes sense to me because that's somewhat predictable in terms of like I know that one day I want to renovate the house. So I have my house repair fund. Um, and then there's still a bucket of like the unknown. Is that right?
Yeah. Um,
Like if there were a flood or if the horse came in and his leg was twice the size it should be. So there's still that kind of like I don't know how to name this bucket because I don't know what's going to happen.
yeah. And when you first get started, like you're saying, the bucket, you may not have like a name for it. But the more you start doing this work, the more you start understanding your expenses, like you're going to have like a horse emergency fund. You know what I'm saying? Like a trailer repair fund, like all of that
Got
stuff.
it.
Does
So
that make
you're going
sense?
to be able to understand where these like quote unquote unexpected expenses start happening because there's
Yeah,
patterns. Okay,
totally, totally.
that does make sense. Thank you. Um, okay, the third thing I want to talk about is not emergency big expenses that can come up and not those big expenses like the tires that we're kind of ignoring, but the big
Mhm.
expenses that we are kind of dreaming of, whether it's the new
Oh,
trailer or the new horse. How do we know whether something is within our means? And I hear a lot of equestrians joke about like I definitely shouldn't buy this horse, but he'll be here tomorrow, and kind of just like, oh,
yeah.
hope this works. But if you were advising somebody who has maybe a new horse as a goal for this year, how would you help them understand like how much should you be spending on this new horse? How much should you consider as your budget for this new horse? What does it
Mhm.
kind of look like for those big one-off expenses like a new horse or a new trailer or a new truck?
Yeah. Okay. I love helping people um, plan to buy a horse. It's so much fun. And I'm going to talk about like a few things with this. So let's say your goal is to get a new horse by October or something. Let's just say that. Um, First, we're going to start with like, yes, there is like the big expense of buying them, but as horse people know, it's like really the monthly expenses that get you. And so let's put it in your plan. Let's pretend like you already have the new horse and put all of the categories for your new horse, the farrier, the vet, the dentist, the insurance, supplements, lessons, like all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and put it in your monthly plan. And then you get to try it on without having the pressure of having the horse already. Like you're like, okay, here's what it would feel like if I had this other horse and this is where the money would be going. And then you don't spend that money. You just like let it keep building up. So that's a great way to try on like, okay, can I like comfortably add this new expense to my life? And then once you try that on for a couple of months, you've got like a pool of money. And I totally recommend like putting some of that aside for that month ahead for the emergencies, for all that good stuff. And then, you know, you can keep saving more to purchase the horse.
I love that to try it on and
Yeah,
see basically, I mean, see if the numbers work, but also see how your emotions, I'm sure, are reacting to this feeling of, oh my gosh, now there's 1,200 more dollars going out the door every month.
yeah. And you can do the same with a truck payment. You can say like, okay, let's pretend my truck payment would be this. Like, try that on. And you know, it makes me think of this like once people get really clear on what they want the new horse, they want the new trailer. One of my clients said to me one time, she said, I used to think like before like looking at my finances, like I used to think I needed to get the candle at the store to like make me feel a certain way or like I needed XYZ. But now she's like, I really want to do this thing with my horse and I don't need those other things. I want this thing. So it's really easy for me to make a decision about where my money goes.
That's amazing. And that really is that what you're describing sounds like somebody who understands their finances. They're not
Yeah,
they're not in the dark, they're not avoiding. That is somebody who's empowered to be making choices in line with what they want. And
totally.
I love I love that you're helping people get there. That really is like from point A to point B. Um,
Yeah.
that brings me to something that I was curious about prior to getting on this call, which
Okay.
is, are there any rules of thumb that you give as like general guidance to your clients in terms of what they should be spending? So would you ever say like, I wouldn't recommend spending more than 50% of your income on equestrian related activities, or I wouldn't recommend spending overall more than like some percentage of your income in general so that there's nothing left over. Are there any rules of thumb like that that you think just make somebody have a healthy relationship with their finances and with their money? Or is it much more case by case, let's decide where that zone of comfort is per person.
Yeah, it is. It's totally more of a case by case than like a general percentage, And like I always tell my clients, like I'm never gonna tell you not to spend money on something. Like if you came to me and you're like, I want to start the world's largest collection of pink bridles. You're like, okay, let's work on that. Let's like orient your plan around that. Um, so yeah, um,
I love that. So there's no judgment in what we're spending money on. There's just like, let's
yeah,
create the ecosystem necessary so that you can create that collection of bridles.
totally, totally. And one time I was working with a client and she was like starting to get like a little like squeamish or like, and she's like, before I go to the barn every day, like I like to stop at Starbucks and get a coffee. I'm like, okay, great. Let's put it in your plan. Like, I'm not going to tell you not to go get coffee. Let's just put it in your plan. And then you get to decide where it falls in your list of priorities.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, something that I think I think a lot of people can probably relate to is a non-standard income each month. So
Yeah.
maybe some months they're bringing in a lot of money and some months feel like a complete drought. How do you approach budgeting with somebody like that? Like, are they on a bit of a roller coaster ride in terms of, like, does their spending mirror their purchase power that they're building every month? Or how do you help somebody not feel like they're on a roller coaster when their income really is?
Oh, yeah, totally. Okay. So, what I hear a lot when people have like a variable income is like, oh, there's no way that I could budget. But it's actually like if you have a variable income, like setting up a system like this is you're the one who's going to benefit the most. So when you're really clear about what your true expenses are, the monthlies, the non-monthlies, all that stuff, when you have those high income months, you're going to be able to fill up your categories and go forward to level out when you have those lower income months. So it feels like less of a roller coaster. Um, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So you don't get to live like a queen in June and live like like you don't have a home in July. You can actually have a pretty stable existence.
Yeah, and I mean you're totally like welcome to do that, but if you're like I'm kind of tired of doing that, like let's talk, let's get a plan together so you don't feel like that all the time.
Okay. You
Yeah.
mentioned categorizing expenses a couple of times. Why is this important and what does that look like for your clients? What does it help with?
Oh yeah. Okay, so in YNAB it automatically connects to your bank and like I go to the feed store. It'll the transaction will come in, I'll say like, "Oh, comes out of my feed category." And the more you do that, the more the program learns like feed store equals feed, Starbucks equals coffee, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's like a way to keep up with like what's actually going on. We're talking about like, okay, you can put together an Excel spreadsheet, but like, how does that actually translate to what happens during the month and how you actually spend your money?
Okay. So at the end of a month, you can kind
Yeah.
of see your pie chart and say, like, wow, I felt like all my money was going to horses, but really, like, a lot of my money is going to eating out, or a lot of my money is going to saddle pads, which are in the horse umbrella, but they're not in like
Yeah.
the necessities of horse care necessarily.
Yeah. You can look back at your spending and um, you can look back at your spending, but the most important thing and like what what really doing this work is about, it's about not just like looking back, but it's about like making decisions in the moment based on what you want. So instead of just like blindly doing all of this stuff and like because you think you need something to make you feel a certain way, it's about like let's slow down, like let's look at your plan and see what's most important to you and then make the decision from that place.
Totally. I'm picturing
Yeah.
like the angel on someone's shoulder and the devil on someone's shoulder, and you're the angel. Like,
Oh my gosh.
you can have your Starbucks, but do we really need, the candle or whatever it is that is not in line with what really makes you happy and what your goals are?
Oh my gosh.
That's that's just a nice tool to have full clarity around what's going on and what's important to you as an individual and as an equestrian. Something that you told me ahead of our conversation is that sometimes people will think that if they put a budget together, everything will instantly fall into place. And that's a bit of a misconception, I imagine. Will you kind of level set for anybody who might fall into that camp?
Yeah. Okay. So, like, you wouldn't introduce your horse to the Piaffe on a Friday and do a Grand Prix Dressage test on a Saturday. Like, and that's why I love working with horse people. You understand like the process, and putting together a budget and using this system it's a process. Like, it's about like all like creating the habit, the sustainable habit of like using it, and like adjusting your plan as you go. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to put together this plan and it's magically going to fall into place, but it's about like, checking in with what's actually going on and making decisions based on like new information that you have. And when I start working with people, like a lot of times they're not saving for those non-monthlies, like the trailer maintenance or the dentist or the saddle fitter. And so like there is a little bit of a catch up time. Like let's say the saddle fitter is coming in 2 months and you're like, oh, I haven't been saving for this at all. So yeah, you're gonna have a little bit of catch up, and that's part of the process, And also part of the process is like learning a new technology, you know, and that's what I offer people. It's like, because sometimes you start something new and you're like, oh, I'm frustrated with this. I don't even want to like look at it anymore. But when you work with someone else, they're going to help you stay in it. They're going to help you figure it out so that it does become a sustainable habit.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can picture what it would be like to kind of get my head around my entire financial situation with your help and then like just be able to foresee what's going to happen in terms of my finances because we know what's coming down the pipeline. That said, I'm curious how you help clients navigate something like, oh, I just heard that William Fox Pitt is coming next month and it's a $700 clinic. And we have hit this really good cadence, you and I, client and professional consultant, but this is not in our plan. So tell me, tell me what that looks like. Is that kind of like you mentioned, eventually there will be a bucket for something like that once we get to know me?
Yeah, 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 totally. We could say you're say okay, let's add clinics to your plan. It wasn't in there before, but let's say you really want to go to this clinic. Like let's look at the money that you have and the jobs that your money has right now. And then how do you want to move stuff around? Like budgeting is not being like, okay, it's not in the plan. I can't do it at all. It's like, okay, what do you want? You want to go to the clinic? Awesome. Like, what do you want to move around to make that possible?
Cool. I love that. And I imagine that could be on either side. Like maybe I pick up some hours at work to cover, or maybe I don't do my in-person lessons so that I can do this clinic or something this month.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally, totally.
Super helpful. Um, Question about somewhat specific, a somewhat specific question, but do you have any advice around insurance? That's something that came up from one of our members ahead of time. Like, is that money well spent? Do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not an insurance broker, but I have insurance from my horse, and I totally think it is worth it. Everyone who I know who has insurance um, sees the value in it. Um, so yes, I'm a big fan of insurance, and then yeah, also knowing like that there's a deductible for insurance. So um, putting that in your plan and saying like, okay, my deductible is $500, $1,000. Let me make sure I have enough to cover the deductible. So then, I'm still okay.
Got it. Okay. So that's just
Yeah.
factoring that into your expenses. but having that safety net in case something really significant were to happen.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, amazing.
And I think it's like up to you about like what amount of risk you're like willing to take. And like if you didn't have insurance, and like you didn't have like the colic part of insurance, um, you know, would you be prepared to like pay for colic surgery, or is that not an option that you want to take? Like, so it's thinking through like how prepared, like how much risk do I want to take, and like could I pay for that sort of thing out of pocket if it were to happen?
Okay. And on that note, if somebody did have something that they can't afford come up, um, what what do we talk about credit cards? I mean, obviously that's a very not ideal route to go, to be racking up expenses on credit cards that you can't pay off each month. Do you have any guidance around that, or is it kind of like, we avoid that when we can, and when we can't, we pay it off as quickly as we can?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think, gosh, there's like so much shame about like debt and like what it means about you as a person. And like, I don't think it means anything about you as a person. And if that is an avenue that you need to take in a certain situation, like it's okay, you know? Or if you had to rely on them in the past and you feel a lot of shame around that, like I know that in that moment you were doing the best that you could, when you like needed to use the credit card. And I work with a lot of people on getting a plan together for paying off their credit cards. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I would love to talk
Okay.
about that. I would
Okay.
also, I also just love, like, giving anybody who needs to, like, rewind 30 seconds and re-listen to what Mary Hurston just said a couple of times. Like, you really come from such a genuine place of non-judgment, non-shame, just helping. And I think I think when you talk about the emotions with clients right off the bat when you start to work with them, you are so perfectly positioned to guide people from those negative emotions to positive emotions, because when you say what you just said, I believe you, but I would never have said that to myself. I needed, like, people need to hear that kind of just like grace that they deserve to have for themselves from somebody else first sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you, for reflecting that to me because, that's my mission um, is to talk about this sort of thing because shame lives in silence. And so often, like you said, you need someone else, or it's really helpful to have someone else come in and help you with that.
Totally. Okay, yeah, let's talk about paying off credit cards. I love that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and maybe I sound like a broken record with it, embracing your true expenses, but it's so worth it. So, um, let's talk about this. So, okay, you want to pay off your credit cards. Step one is to embrace your true expenses so that you don't have to keep relying on the credit card. So, putting together the plan with those monthlies and non-monthlies, because sometimes people are like, I want to pay the credit card off as quickly as possible, so they put all their income toward paying off the credit card, but then the insurance bill comes in, your rent, your mortgage, whatever starts coming, you're like, oh, I have to rely back on the credit card. Okay, so step one. And also sometimes people are like, I really, sometimes like we're just like, okay, for this first month, you're just gonna make the minimum payment on your credit card, and people have a lot of resistance to that. And then they get into the system, and it's all good. But okay, so you're embracing your true expenses so that you don't have to continue to rely on the credit card. And then if you have multiple credit cards, we're going to start with, you're only going to put a big payment on one at a time. You're just going to focus on one at a time. And we're going to start with the one with the smallest balance to get the momentum going. And you're going to work on that one. You're going to pay it off. You're going to celebrate. You're going to remind yourself that it's safe to hold this level of success. You're going to keep embracing your monthly expenses, and then you're going to start working on the next credit card, and it's going to feel so good. And then you're going to work that one off, and then you're going to celebrate, and keep doing that for however long you need to keep doing that.
Wow, I love that approach. And it reminds me of the emergency fund approach. Like something is better than nothing. And
Yeah.
when you say it, it makes so much sense to start with that one with the smallest balance so that we can get like an early win and, start feeling accomplished in what we're doing and what we're working toward.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I am like huge on celebrating wins. Um, because and we were talking about like working with Natalie, but like celebrating wins is so important for your nervous system. And I do that all the time with people. Like I geek out about it. And it's really fun. And then the more that I do it with people, the more that they can do it for themselves. And that is such a freaking joy to see.
I love that. That it reminds me, Kinsey and I earlier today, we were talking about like company culture, and we have a small company, and we were talking about how it's still so important and so prevalent. Like I think it's kind of a misconception that smaller companies don't have important culture. And what you're describing, even as somebody who works largely individually, you're creating this culture of like celebration and optimism and
Yeah.
appreciating one's efforts. And it's really cool that you just are intentional about that, because I'm sure that that's a huge benefit that your clients get that they don't necessarily know they're going to get when they start working with you.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And I love that you're thinking about that too, for your company. And I love the saying like people make culture, like we can influence it and make it. And how powerful is that?
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, now to my favorite question. I
Okay.
love asking our guests to challenge listeners to something they could do in the next 7 days. It could be the smallest little thing. For example, like the first time I asked this, I think it was to Coach Tony Sandoval. So he's like a strength and conditioning instructor for equestrians. And his challenge was like, walk to a point that you can see at the end of your driveway and walk back. So like a short little walk, but something that people can do and something that can make them feel good on this topic. Do you have a challenge that you can pose to people who are listening that they can kind of, I mean, really anything under the umbrella of budgeting and finances or financial literacy?
Oh, yeah, that I like, and I love to hear people's answers to that. So great question. Um, yeah, okay. So for the next 7 days, I've got something for you. Um, you're open your bank account or your budgeting app or whatever you're using, and you don't need to do anything. You just need to like feel the sensations in your body, put your hand on your chest, and take a deep breath, and then close it. That's all you need to do.
I love that. Okay, I'll do it. And only because
Yeah.
only because of this conversation will I truly do it. Like I said at the beginning, if you would have said like open your bank account, I'd be like, nope, no thanks. I'm not, I don't want to. But I feel totally fine about that because of what you've discussed for the past 50 minutes. So thank you for that challenge. I'm going to take you up on that. I hope some people listening will take you up on that too. And for people who are liking the sound of this work, will you tell us about how they can reach out to you and if you're taking one-on-one clients right now, and then just a little more about what that relationship looks like is it like a 6 month engagement, is there a time that's stamped on it at the outset? Just give people a little bit more of an idea of what it's like to work with you.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I think it's really fun to work with me. I have a great time with people. So yeah, I in about a month I'll have two open spots for one-on-one clients. And yeah, what that commitment looks like is it's a 2 month commitment, but a lot of people sign up to continue on with support, where we meet weekly for 2 months. We have calls. I also have text support. We'll check in. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. So easy. So if people are
Yeah.
interested, where do they go to reach out to you or to learn more?
Okay, so then go to my website, which is budgeting with M as in Monday, H as in house.com, or that same handle on Instagram. You can send me a DM, and we can connect and we can chat. Um, and the first step is setting up. It's a complimentary 30-minute discovery call and just, talk and see what your goals are and see if my program is a good fit for you.
I love that. This is
Yeah.
so it's so accessible and it's not intimidating and I love that you have that 30-minute discovery call too to just sort of
Mhm.
like test the waters out and so somebody can learn more one-on-one. I think that's super helpful and I hope that people take you up on it from our community. I think that would be really fun. Um, I am just so grateful to you for the work that you're doing and how you're doing it and of course for like sharing your knowledge with us today.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so grateful for you for this opportunity and, all the work that you do, and the voices that you elevate. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody listening. We're so happy to have you here.